Hello and welcome everybody to MIPS program kickoff call. We're very excited to welcome everybody. I'm just looking here and just making sure everybody's been able to join and connect with the audio before we get started. So we'll just give it another second or two here to make sure everybody can connect. In the meantime, we appreciate everybody waiting and for this much anticipated call. Appreciate everybody being here. All right, it looks like most people have connected with the audio, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Nick. I'm with the Graph Foundation. It's my pleasure on behalf of the Graph Foundation and everybody that's helped contribute to the MIPS program to welcome everybody to today's call and to provide an overview of the agenda and the things that we're going to cover. So on this next slide, we've provided an agenda of what we'll be covering during today's call. We'll have a welcome and introduction, a brief overview of the MIPS program, as well as an overview of schedule and workshops. Then we'll talk a little bit about missions, scoring, and rewards. And then we'll describe how we're going to host the Q&A. And we're going to ask people to post their questions in the Graph Discord in the MIPS testnet channel. We'll post a link to that in the chat here, and you can get set up and verified over there if you haven't already. But that's how we'll just handle some of the Q&A. So with that, I want to go ahead and start with the welcome and introduction and bring onto the call Eva Bailin with the Graph Foundation. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you so much, Nick, and truly so excited to see how many people there are here. Right now I'm seeing 263, which is more than we had in our previous testnet. So just huge round of applause and pat on the back to everyone in the Graph community for making it here. You know, we've really come a long way. And this is our, second version of a testnet-like incentivized program, and we're expecting at least twice as many participants as last time. So, it's been over 2 years since we launched the network, so really, really how far everyone's come. I wanted to, just share a bit about what this means to us, as members of the Graph community working at the Graph Foundation. This multi-chain vision is much larger than just the Graph and us migrating these chains from the hosted service to the network. It really is about making decentralized applications truly decentralized. And today, we're almost there. There's quite a bit out there aside from the Graph, storage networks, et cetera. But enabling multi-chain really is that last piece. Because most dApps actually are also multi-chain. Most of them are not on only Ethereum mainnet. Many that we speak with that are very, high subgraph users, they're on many networks. And so this really unlocks that next piece of composability, making it easier for, whether it's a static, data application or aggregator to a decentralized exchange to be able to create that cross-chain vision that they've always wanted. And you indexers are the backbone. You're not only the backbone of the Graph, you're the backbone of Web3, because with the Graph and new features that will come down the line, even after multi-chain expansion, indexers really are the crux of making dApps possible. And I'm sure everyone has seen feedback, from Web2 people, from venture capitalists about how, is Web3 really decentralized? And everyone who's here is truly making that possible. The last thing I want to say is our overall goal is resilience. Especially in the last few weeks, we've seen a lot of activity from regulators from different jurisdictions, and it's so clear that we need to double down on making our networks decentralized, making our ecosystem decentralized, and making it resilient long term. So with that, thank you all for joining us.
So it's now my opportunity to give a little bit of a overview of the program. As I look around at some of the folks that have joined us here on Zoom, I'm seeing some familiar faces, meaning individuals that are already active as indexers at the Graph, but I see also a lot of new names and new information from people that have applied to the program. So I just want to say first and foremost that it's super exciting, like Eva said, to see the amount of interest from the community and a lot of individuals that are joining as an indexer for the first time and using the MIPS program to do that. This next slide I created was just to kind of form a nice contrast with Mission Control. So for those of you that don't know, Mission Control was the original testnet that helped launch the Graph network, and a lot of the OG network, a lot of the OG indexers that we've all kind of come to know within the community formed and created the foundation of the indexer community through Mission Control. And so it's exciting for me to see and think that the MIPS program will also help set a new generation of indexers and welcome them into the network by supporting new chains and enabling migration of multi-chain subgraphs. On this next slide, I just wanted for anybody who hasn't taken the time to read through the MIPS blog or the MIPS landing page to do so. A lot of the information and details and a lot of the excitement and vision for the program are outlined on those two resources. So if you're somebody who applied but haven't taken the time to go through the blog or review the landing page, I encourage you to do so. There's lots of information and detail there. On this next slide, I decided that it would be fun to see some of the data that came in through the application process and what we saw through the interest in the community. So by contrast, we had 563 total applications to Mission Control, but for the MIPS program, we had 1,782. And about 15% of those applicants were currently indexers at the graph. So a lot of new applications and interest in the graph. And then lastly, I thought it was interesting that about 55% of that 1,782 total applications were individuals. So not working on a team, but individuals who wanted to become an indexer at the graph. And I'm certain a lot of those are members of the Graph Advocates program and members of the graph community, like people that are currently working as delegators or curators who wanted to level up and become an indexer at the graph. So a quick overview of the program is basically we've set up a system where we had about 4 weeks whereby we could accept applications, and then we designated a couple weeks where we could process KYCs and indexer agreements. Obviously, because of the amount of applications, and couple that with the amount of new individuals who haven't been an indexer before, there's been a lot of thought into processing and getting everybody up to speed by giving the correct amount or adequate amount of preparations and onboarding. And so for that reason, we've kind of gone back and reevaluated some of the workflow here. So for example, as you probably noticed, the KYC deadline was yesterday, but we're still working with folks who might have, had some challenges in submitting their KYC. For example, one situation arose where somebody may have previously KYC'd in one of the graph programs, and we had to reset that KYC so they could do it again because a new KYC would be required to participate in the MIPS program. So I think all of you have the email to the Graph Foundation. I think it's info@thegraphfoundation, at the graph.foundation, excuse me. And maybe Pedro, you can paste that email in the chat. But if you have questions about the KYC, or if you are one of those individuals who had prior KYC and need help with resetting it, please reach out to us. The next deadline then would be the indexer agreement deadline. And so a lot of you have been asking, hey, when do we get that indexer agreement? And that will be sent out shortly. And the deadline for that will be Monday of next week. So the 26th. And we'll be sending out those emails with a call to action of how you can complete the indexer agreement in that period of time. Then we're going to have about a week of preparations and onboarding. Like I said, there's a lot of new faces here, a lot of new people signing up to become an indexer, and that takes a little bit of a lift to make sure that everybody is prepared and set up to succeed. So about a week there. And then we enter, formally into the MIPS program, which is a 6-month program in full duration, but we'll be adding new chains, starting with Gnosis, obviously. And each circle or a cycle of adding a new chain will be dependent on the chain and some of the technical capabilities required to begin syncing the chain. So in some cases, it might take 3 weeks to add and complete all the missions for the chain, and in other situations it might be a bit longer. But on the whole, the program is a 6-month program. And I think one of the things that I'm excited about is the way that we're going to help onboard and prepare new folks to the program. And so I'd like to welcome onto the call Abel with GraphOps, who's going to talk a little bit about program schedule and workshops. And for those of you who don't know, GraphOps is a core dev team here at the Graph, as well as a longtime indexer that I think that joined during Mission Control. So Abel, welcome to you.
Thank you so much. And that is indeed correct. We did join around Mission Control. So as Nick alluded to earlier, there's a fair few of you who are new to the ecosystem. I believe about 85% have never interacted with the Graphol Index on the Graph before, which is a fantastic piece of information. It's great to see that the community is growing. And so in line with that, if you head over to the next slide, we have a set of workshops for you, right? So we believe that education is incredibly important so that each and every indexer has all of the information that they need to upskill and make sure that they're running the best operation possible. So here is just a short list of some of the workshops that we have. Some have dates and more will be coming out as we speak. What I want to do is highlight 2 workshops that are happening this week. So if you guys want to get onto it and get ahead of the game, I'd highly recommend joining today's Indexer Best Practices workshop, which will be happening at 5 p.m. UTC, which is exactly after this call ends in the Discord. It will be with a bunch of indexers effectively sharing their best practices on how to index in the graph in the decentralized network. So yeah, if you're a new indexer or if you're an existing indexer looking to up your game, then we highly recommend joining that session. We also have another session this week, which is happening on Thursday, the 22nd of September, which is all about infrastructure or orchestration from the ground up. Well, we'll have one of our team members, Anna, talk to you all about what it means to set up your infrastructure for your indexer. Just a kind of high level view on some of the things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Docker versus Kubernetes. We're going to be talking about the hardware that you need to be able to run your indexer, certain tips and tricks on certain SRE, on being an effective SRE, and much more. So look out for that. Make sure you guys lock into the schedule. So Nick or Pedro or anyone who has the link, if you could share the Google Calendar with the dates for these workshops, that would be fantastic. And with that, I'll hand it over to I believe Martin, who's going to take us into the missions and scoring.
Great, thanks, Abel. So yeah, let me jump into mission scoring and rewards. So as you know, most of you probably saw in the blog post, you know, each chain is going to have a cycle where we're going to, you know, have this preparation phase. I'm going to basically do certain phases in what is going to be the protocol or interacting with the protocol in the early testnet. Some of them will have a phase which will be optional using the layer 2, and then we'll have one phase happening on mainnet. For all these details, what we're going to do is basically share a MIPs Notion page that will have all of this data. So you'll have a schedule with all the workshops that are happening, but also all the phases, deadlines of the forms that you need to submit, and the details of each mission that is included in each phase. To kickstart this, the Notion page is going to be shared in the next 24 hours next to the agreement that Nick mentioned previously. And on that Notion page, we'll already include phase 0, which will have all the first mission. And just as a brief hint there, or alpha, if you want to call it, the phase 0 is going to be basic stuff on kickstarting, running GraphNode, running Prometheus, and making sure that basically everyone is able to access the data that is from GraphNode to Gnosis chain, and provide certain subgraphs that you will have to index. That would be Kickoff basically in the next 24 hours, and everyone is going to get everything to start all this stuff. At the same time, you'll have all these workshops that Abel just mentioned. So in case you're like a new indexer that are just joining the ecosystem, you'll have all the context to learn. And of course, all the OG indexers will be there for sure in the Discord, like sharing all the knowledge and helping each other. And on the other side, scoring and rewards. Scoring, as you also, it was briefly shared on the MIPS page and also on the blog post. It's going to be handled in basically three big buckets, which are like subgraph coverage, quality of service, and community support. As shared there, subgraph coverage involves how many subgraphs are going to be indexed and providing data in each chain. Quality of service involving basically, quality of service of each subgraph that is going to be, indexed by each indexer. And the highlight of community support is going to involve a couple of items. Of course, it's going to be, measuring the community involvement in different, channels like forums, GitHub, Discord, be it, Discord in public channels, or of course, private channels, because of course indexers normally help each other, also in DMs. And there's going to be a form, as I briefly mentioned on the overview. Like, there's going to be a form after each phase, and that's going to be required to complete each phase, where you're going to be asked about like who helped you most, and a lot of feedback that you can share, and different data that is required to accomplish each phase. And there's going to be potentially also user studies. So if you participate, that it's also be considered as community support, and any other metrics that are going to be keeping track during the program. On the rewards side, as highlighted also on the website, and there's going to be more details also on the agreement, there's going to be a part of it that is going to be distributed after the successful completion and scoring of each participant during each chain. So after each chain finalizes, after the end of the phase number 3, which is this one, basically there's going to be a section of the rewards that is going to be distributed, and the other section of the rewards is going to be distributed at the end of the MIPS program, which means, basically all the rewards are accumulated across the different chains are going to be distributed at the end of the program, in a couple of months. And with that, we can pass it back to Nick.
Thank you, Martin. So we want to just provide some next steps and encourage everybody to start getting ready. First and foremost, make sure you subscribe to that dedicated MIPS program calendar. Pedro shared that link in the chat here, but we'll be updating that with events and workshops. So that should be a good source of truth as it relates to events and workshops for the program. We also encourage you to monitor the MIPS homepage, which is in process and being built, as Martin referenced there. We'll share that with you. Make sure you have your Discord role assigned by end of week. So Martin, I don't know if there's any detail to add there, but in essence, if you've applied and provided your Discord handle, you'll be given a role whereby you can participate in the MIPS channels and communicate with other participants.
Good.
Oh, please.
No, I was going to make that correct, what you just said. And of course, if you haven't gotten that assigned or you change it by any reason, please reach out to us.
And then lastly, updates and important announcements will be sent mostly through Discord messages. So the MIPS announcements channel, that's why it's so important to get that role assignment in Discord. And we'll use email a little bit as well. So those are important next steps. A huge shout out to GraphOps and the indexer community for allowing the MIPS program to kind of share in the great success of indexer office hours. So this is a weekly event held on Tuesdays. In fact, it's coming up in a half hour here. And some of those indexer office hours are going to be leveraged for education and workshops for participants in the MIPS program. And GraphOps has been running that indexer office hours for the last little bit and have generously said we can dedicate some time there. So in fact, there's a session today that anybody who's new to being an indexer should definitely join. And I think a lot of the existing indexers will be there as well to share some ideas about best practices of being an indexer at the Graph. So some great education and kind of the first formal workshop associated with the MIPS program. So on this next slide, then, we want to just encourage you to feel free to go to the MIPS testnet channel in the Graph Discord. Pedro has posted the link here, and you can get access there. I'm already seeing a few folks in there asking questions. Some folks that have been talking during this call will be there to answer your questions, and then there are other community members there that can help as well. So if you have questions, please head to the Discord. With that, I think we can conclude the call. I want to say thank you again to GraphOps and everybody else who's been partnering up and launching the MIPS program. The success from all the applicants, the interest from the community, and what this means for the network and being able to add a whole bunch of new chains is truly incredible. And I know there's a lot of excitement everywhere, and appreciate everybody that has an interest in contributing. I think this is a monumental and historical moment, and I'm certainly grateful to be a part of it. So thank you very much.
I am seeing some questions in Discord regarding the MIPS Discord role. How is it that people will be assigned this role? Can you answer this question?
Yeah, Discord role is going to be assigned by moderators, and all of them will be assigned during these next few days. So everyone can see the Discord announcement channel for the MIPS program and the layer 2 channel. All of them will be assigned or removed in any way, but as people get approved in the KYC and signed agreement. On the question of the Notion page, yeah, I'm going to release that Notion page through a Discord message or an email in the next 24 hours. So everyone can start with phase 0. Any other question that you're seeing, Pedro, Nick?
There is a question. If I start from Maxi, if I start a program on the testnet and in the process I switch to mainnet, is that okay? Will you be able to identify my mainnet node and take this into account when distributing rewards?
Yeah, it's more than okay. That's actually expected. It will be several phases are on the Goerli testnet, and there's going to be one phase that is on mainnet. And yes, we'll identify that node as you'll have to give us access or data to it. And Randax asked about recording. So yes, it's going to be recorded and it's going to be shared in a bit.
Lennox is saying that it's not entirely clear at what point we need to have a mainnet indexer as part of the program. Can we give some guidance at what point we expect participants to switch from testnet deployment, or I shouldn't say switch, I should say add a mainnet deployment?
Sure. On the MIPS Notion page that's going to be shared, it's going to have a schedule, and it's safe to assume that the last phase, which is phase 3, will have a requirement to have a MIPS, an indexer on the mainnet run. Yep.
Stake Machine is wanting to clarify whether any of the rewards will be subject to vesting.
Yes, all the percentage that is going to be distributed at the end of the program is going to be subject to a vesting. Yeah. And more of that is going to be on the agreement to be shared in the next 24 hours.
Martin, for teams that had more than one individual submit a Discord handle, will all team members receive the role necessary to participate?
Correct. That's why we ask all of them as team members. And so when one applied, you were able to indicate the main point of contact and the rest of the team. And they are all going to be tracked on the same contributions for the scoring. And they'll all get the Discord role so they can see the channel. Randax, yes, we'll pin the message. Once I share the Notion page, the Notion page is going to be pinned in that channel and in the announcements channel too. And on the Notion page, you'll have links to each. I mean, there's literally a calendar for the whole program, and then you'll have different views. One view for the missions, one view for the forums, one view for all the workshops, and you'll have in the view of the workshops the links to this Zooms, like basically where you can join live when they're happening, and a link to the recording once it's uploaded, so you can view it afterwards. Question about Igor. If you had when they filled the form, they didn't have an indexer running, and now they have, did they need to update it? No, you don't need to update it.
There's a question. I would like to know if it is possible to use locked tokens from Graph Curator program to participate in MIPS testnet. And yes, it's already been addressed in Discord, just relaying it here since it's the second person asking this question. Yes, you can.
And also adding there what Payne also answered in Discord, you will need, of course, the minimum amount that is required to run an indexer.
I think there's a good question from Derek. During the MIPS program, will there be an adjusted dispute process for identifying invalid POIs?
That's indeed a good question. We can get back to you on that.
Yeah, there's no plans for it, but we can get back on. We can get back to you, Derek, on this.
And on the question previously posted by Dan, about combining vesting contracts, and that's currently not possible because of the vesting contracts or how they work. It's not, we don't allow it, or like it's how they work that they can't be combined. So you would the options would be to delegate one to the other one, or to run two indexers. Question from Dustin of a deadline. Each phase has its own deadline, and it's going to be shared on the Notion page. Okay.
I see we have a good amount of questions in Discord. We can combine. We can create an FAQ we can add to the Notion page based on the questions we've been seeing, so others can also review it at a later stage.
Yeah. On Randax's question of offline events, and the community hosted a Graph Day a couple of months ago, and I mean the advocates run events in different parts of the world, as also sometimes when the community is sponsoring hackathons, and there's also events I believe some of them will be in DevCon if you're going to be on the Randox. Yeah. And yes, we're going on an exciting journey, friends.
Satman is saying there are some questions in the original Discord thread, but most folks were posting it in the channel directly. So I'm scrolling and trying to find more questions. Oh, Ford is already addressing those. Perfect. Thanks, Ford.
Over to submit our team member. Eugene, I mean, you can send that to info@thegraph.foundation if you didn't already submit it when you applied. Or just DM, that also works. But let's avoid that. Phase 1 announcement and instructions. And in the next 24 hours, I'll share the announcement page with phase 0. And you'll have the instructions there. Phase 1 comes after that. To inflex, yes, mainnet stake is necessary for getting MIPS rewards. And the only way to complete each basically phase, the whole program for each chain is being able to provide indexing in mainnet. And that's what the last phase is involved. And when phase 0 starts in the next 24 hours. Okay.
Yes, we have a good amount of folks now addressing questions in Discord. I guess, like I mentioned, we can create an FAQ and terminate the call now, Martin, and we can probably continue addressing the questions in Discord. Now that we have the channel.
I think we're good. As a reminder, as Chris from GraphOps just shared, in 20 minutes, there's indexer office hours, and there's a dedicated infra workshop on Thursday too. So don't be shy, show up, ask questions. And I think that's pretty much it. Nick, you want to take it from here? I want to close it.
Of course. So I encourage everybody to stay active in that Discord channel. If you have questions, definitely read through all of them. But I want to thank everybody for taking time here today to join this call, and super excited about the future of the MIPS program and for everybody participating. There's a lot more to come. Thank you for taking the time, and we'll end it here, and we'll see you in Discord.
Bye, everyone.